First Descendant devs are at it again with a ton of changes to the invasion infiltrations in patch 1.11. This is the second patch in a series of 3 addressing the community's feedback, and this one's all about quality of life improvements. If you're wondering about the multiplayer changes, those are coming in the next patch, but today we're focusing on what's new and how it feels in-game. Now, I've already covered the full patch notes and the buff to Haley's drop rates that went live today also. So if you missed that, be sure to check out my previous video. I'll link that below. In this video though, I'm gonna dive into my impressions and feedback on these new changes. Quick disclaimer, this isn't a guide, just my thoughts after playing through the updated content. And this is fresh as I just finished it not that long ago. And with the invasions rotating daily, I've only had a chance to play the 2 that were available today. So let's talk about how things are shaping up with the patch 1.11.
Tux makes it exciting!
Let's start with Sterile Lands, which was the unknown laboratory. That means we are collecting those flags or those brains and putting them in the device to overload it. And then after that, you have to shoot the barrier weak points to move on to the next phase. This is probably one of the easier ones, and I think it's intended to be too. So as far as quality of life improvements, you're still doing this in 2 phases like you were before. But now you don't have to collect as many of the flags. Before it was 30, now it's 20, so it's 10 per phase. The other thing that they changed is that they increased the quantity of the melee enemies in all of these. And I gotta say, I don't like that. Apparently they did that per player feedback, but who would ask for that? Whoever you are, damn it. Anyways, in this particular one, you get the bots, and one of them, the bigger one, has a big AoE on his stagger, and that was a pain. I did this with Jaber. I've learned that he's one of the best for these invasions because his turrets do a great job of distracting the enemies. But man, when you don't, you get tossed around like a volleyball. It's crazy. There's so many ads in this small little space. Also had a hard time getting to the door to get out of the first cave. You have to shoot at those weak points, and the angle is kind of awkward, and you'd obviously land more shots if you were closer to it. We're all running action and reaction on our weapons, something to think about, but that wanted me to get closer, and it was just another obstacle course to get up to that door to shoot it. In one instance, apparently I didn't go fast enough, and it spawned the whole activity all over again. There was a time limit to exit the room. I don't see why there would need to be one. You're only hurting yourself if you're just hanging out in there, and I don't know why anybody would want to. As far as gameplay flow, I think it was smoother overall, but partly it's because we've done these before now, a few of these. So I was much more comfortable going in. I knew what I had to do. I didn't have to pause to figure it out. It was the layout that was different. But reversing the map was probably not a really good idea. I think that added a lot of frustration to it. I think they should just keep it playing forward. But depending on what map you're on, that could be really annoying. And in the unknown laboratory, it was, because this has those obstacle courses that were already a pain in the butt, but we've all adapted to those. Now reverse them and the angles get awkward. I understand why they do that. I think they're trying to reskin the operation by flipping it on its head, but that just added to a frustration. I advise they don't do that. I like where their head's at with where their player base is on these operations. It's not a good idea. Most of my frustration from this was the obstacle coursing. The objectives themselves, because of the spaces you were confined in and the quantity of enemies, you had to think about that. What you were doing was easy, but the things in your way to do it smoothly were a pain in the butt. Annoying. Okay, let's talk about the fortress.
Let's do this!
Okay, so let's talk about the fortress. So this was in the quarantine zone, and that means you're facing the Legion of Darkness. The good news is that you stand on the big tiles. Now with this one, the map was flowing in the same direction as you played it outside of this invasion. So that's good, and I think that's smart, and I hope they continue to do it that way for the others. Because you're familiar with it, you can go faster, and I think that's really helpful and limits the frustration. This one has platforming, so there's a central control unit that you have to jump up to. And for me, that's where all the frustration is with these, because it's just such a pain. Now, I realize if you're on a PC, you might have an easier time with this than console players, but it's so frustrating when you have something so basic like that, and that's the most difficult thing you're facing in these objectives, is just getting on the platform. It's stupid simple, and I haven't liked any of the obstacle courses, in this game because it just makes you feel real bad. I know you might call that a skill issue, but it's just not a good one. It's just not one that tests the skills where I want to be tested. I want my fighting skills to be tested, not my Roblox obstacle course skills. Say what you want. But that's not my favorite part. I hope that they find another way to reveal the colors. Now, as far as the changes they made those tiles, they made them way easier to identify because they gave you symbols that you would recognize in the real world. So X's and triangles, squares and circles, and then of course the colors, but they also reduced the number of them from 6 to 4. So there's 4 possible symbols instead of 6 possible colors and symbols. Either way, I think it did the trick, and now it's pretty straightforward, and they have them aligned in somewhat of a logical order. So I was able to get up there and see the line or the path that I had to go from one to the second one and to the third one. There's only 3. One of the things that I don't like is that the platform can be destroyed. I think they should make that platform invulnerable, because if you're up there forever, then you're going to take damage and eat time. So there's no incentive to stay up there. So I don't really see why that should be destroyed. So they reduced the time you had to stand on the tiles to 3 seconds. I'm sure that helped, but they also have it in a way where each one is a little bit faster than the last. So they removed the suicide bomber that would destroy the arcade tiles. So that was good. And they reduced the spawn rates of raiders who would reduce the arcade tile occupancy. There were a few times where it was crowded. This is where the frustration came in on this one. Ammo became an issue. There were instances when I started this, I don't know if it's when I restarted it or if it was always like this, but you start without full ammo. I didn't realize that until I was halfway through this thing. And so that was a big annoyance. In some cases, I didn't see or couldn't find the ammo refresh computer. So then I got to the end, the boss room. And this is the one where you step on the colored tiles to basically break his shield. But again, in this room particularly, ammo was a big issue. I was running out of ammo so fast, it was crazy. Now, I had to do this multiple times because I couldn't get ammo. Because I ran out of ammo and the ads weren't dropping any, or I wasn't focusing on them, because I was just trying to DPS the boss until he was dead. And I had the DPS to do it, but not the ammo. But if you're using a skill-based Descendant that has AoE, you're probably not gonna run into that same situation. There's probably gonna be enough mana laying on the floor, but you're probably gonna have different frustrations, like being able to stand still on the same button. The rewards, well,
Let's do this!
the rewards, I gotta say the rewards are great. So obviously they buffed Haley's, so you're now getting up to 5 per run if you get a gold, and at least 3 if you do really crappy. I mean, that felt really good. So just by finishing this session, which was, 2 in Sterile Land and 2 in Fortress, I came out with 19 of a possible 20. So that felt really good. When it comes to the rewards, I can't really gauge on how I feel about the XP coming out of those. I think it should probably be higher if there's going to be mechanics. But when it comes to the gold, it's juicy. Like, I would keep doing it for that gold. It's 5 million a day in gold for completing these is nice. I know what many of you are going to say, just do the Volby run. I'm not sure that's better. You know what I mean? Running in the circle. So is the juice worth the squeeze? I think so. I mean, I would do these every day. So one of the big downsides are the way Haley's drops are actually dropping. There's some good and there's some bad on it. So the good thing is that there's RNG, which is good up to a point. And that point is when one of your components are full and what you get is the wrong components. But they need to figure that out. I think the best way to do it is just to give us Haley points, and then you can spend them on whatever component you want to spend them on. Make those points generic. So you don't have to do these, but this is the new content that they gave us in the game. I would not describe these as hard. I would describe them as annoying. Anybody can complete this. It might take you multiple tries. That doesn't matter. Take as many times as you need to figure out your strategy. But from there, your strategy is down, and then everything that you encounter that would challenge you are just annoyances. They're annoying things. Obstacle courses, melee guys that bounce you around like bubbles. None of these things I feel like are where I want my challenges to be placed. And I think that's the real problem with these missions. And here's the solution to it all. It is going to be multiplayer. I think that's the biggest fix to all of these. So if nothing else changed at this point, but just the multiplayer, all of the issues that I faced and encountered along the way are no longer going to be issues. So I could see this in a multiplayer mode just being so much more smooth. It didn't take very long, and the quantity of rewards that I got were substantial and felt very rewarding. So I do see why they have a cap on this, because they want that feeling. And I think they got the juice right. They just need to work on the squeeze. So if you've given these a try, some constructive feedback in the comment section would be really helpful. The devs are out there listening and adjusting, and there's a chance to further tweak these in the next patch. So they've never said that they're done. They have said that they're continuing to listen and improve these systems to make sure that we enjoy them. So let's continue to give them feedback. I know this is all happening slower than what we want. Although we don't have perfection, we do have progress. So if you love this game and you want to see it succeed, let's continue down that path. Thank you for hanging out with me. My name is Tuxedo Bandido. That's Tito Bandido.
One and only.
And this was another episode of The First Descendant. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The First Descendant. And if you like videos like this, check out the one I have recommended for you right here. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
When you buy or download anything for The First Descendant, be sure to use Tux's creator code to support the channel. Easy peasy.
Follow me.